Outrageous. Elon Musk's SpaceX prepares for Starship launch that could reach Mars. Elon Musk is a visionary genius who eventually wants humanity to settle on Mars and make it a self-sustaining colony in the near future. His company, SpaceX, is making a huge effort in that direction. In this video, we'll be talking about how SpaceX is gearing up for reaching Mars. But before we talk about how SpaceX is actually preparing for reaching Mars, we would like to request you to subscribe to our channel. Subscription is an excellent way of supporting our content, and we will be extremely grateful for any support you send our way. A big thank you in advance to all those generous supporters out there. Alright, the SpaceX program is a space exploration company founded by Elon Musk, which hopes to support Musk's mission for colonization of Mars. Human settlement on Mars will not only advance our knowledge of the cosmos, but also provide us with a reasonable chance of survival and ensure the long-term survival of our species. SpaceX hopes to accomplish this objective by developing reusable spacecrafts. Specifically for Mars, SpaceX has designed Starship, which will be reusable, will be able to limit transportation costs to a great extent, therefore making travel to Mars more affordable. But when was the concept of colonization of Mars first discussed? Well, the concept of colonization of Mars was first discussed in 2001, when Elon Musk first became a part of the Mars Society's board of directors. During this time period, between 2001 to 2010, his company SpaceX came up with many creative ideas about delivering payloads, cargoes, and crews from Earth to Mars and from Mars to Earth as well. The ideas were discussed including space tugs, heavy-lift launch vehicles, as well as Red Dragon capsules. The very first reusable spacecraft proposed by the company was in 2016 during the International Astronautical Congress. The vehicle under discussion was initially called the Interplanetary Transport System, which was eventually changed to Starship. Starship has been in development ever since then due to the very nature of how it is being developed. It is still under a series of tests, prompting SpaceX to give our attentive schedules of the launch of its first orbital mission. But how does SpaceX actually plan to launch a mission to Mars? Well, SpaceX is planning to build a small fleet of Starship spacecrafts through joint ventures with various other companies. These public-private partnerships, which include a partnership with NASA, will bring down the costs of development lower. However, SpaceX is developing the orbital launch system in its private capacity, which can be used as many times as necessary in a manner akin to using aircrafts. The objectives of the company are divided into different steps. In the first step, the company aims to return a launch vehicle to launch site in minutes and to return it to the launch pad after its orbital realignment with the launch site. After this, the company aims to prep its vehicle for atmospheric re-entry in up to 24 hours. The ultimate objective of the company is to come up with a space vehicle, which will be successful in both stages of their launch, which means that they will be reusable in a few hours after they return. But why does SpaceX want a colonization base on Mars only? Well, Mars is only 140 million miles away from Earth. It is a habitable planet and is one of the closest neighbors to Earth. Its distance to the Sun is about half of how far Earth is to the Sun, which also means that Earth has some decent sunlight too. Mars is a little colder than Earth, but due to air conditioning systems, it can be brought down to tolerable temperatures. The atmosphere on Mars is mainly composed of carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and other trace elements. This means that through air compression, there is the possibility of growing plants. Mars also has gravity, but the strength of the gravity is only about 38% of what is on Earth. Lower gravity will mean that we'll be able to lift heavier weights more easily, and the regular day cycles will be extremely close to that of Earth. Now let us talk about the launch vehicles which SpaceX intends to use for colonization of Mars. The main spacecraft intended for colonization of Mars is Starship. Starships, as discussed earlier, are intended to be fully usable vehicles which will cut down transportation costs and thus make space travel more affordable. Moreover, Starships can be maintained midway during their inner space flights and can undergo extensive maintenance too. Starships will consist of two basic stages. The Super Heavy is the first stage. The Super Heavy is essentially a booster, whereas the second stage of the Starship is the spacecraft, which is propelled by Raptor and Raptor vacuum engines. What makes these spacecraft completely unique in terms of material construction is that they're composed of stainless steel instead of aluminum alloys, which gives it a more resilient exterior profile. This temperature resilience is absolutely important for making the spacecraft stable during the re-entry, since, due to friction, it is estimated that there will be excessive wear and tear on the outer surface of these surfaces. As far as fuel is concerned, Raptor is fueled by methane, which is relatively cheap. One of the other advantages of using methane is that it produces combustible gases in lower quantities and makes it less detrimental to the environment. Methane can also be created on Mars since the raw materials for making that gas are already available on Mars, carbon dioxide and hydrogen. The two elements can be combined through the Sabatier reaction. The engine will be based around a new main combustion chamber, which can withstand a pressure of about 4,400 pounds per square inch, which is the highest pressure threshold of all engines. Engineers of SpaceX hope that this engine can be mass-produced in the future. The current costs of producing this engine is limited to about $230,000. Starship is the second stage of the vehicle and will be the mainstay of the operation. Starship itself is about 160 feet in height, and without any fuel, it will weigh near to 220,000 pounds. The payload volume of Starship is about 1,000 meter cube. This Starship spacecraft can be refueled in orbit using a tanker spacecraft. After being refueled, Starship will be able to transport larger payloads across the solar system and even beyond it. What does the SpaceX aim to accomplish on Mars? Well, SpaceX aims to construct a crew-operated base on Mars. The crew will continue to serve on this base for an extended period of time. This colony will be self-sufficient in the sense that all the resources will be cultivated from Mars itself. But the drive for self-sufficiency will only be actualized after many decades. Elon Musk has made a statement that SpaceX will be able to make its Mars base operational in 2029. The first crewed mission to Mars will consist of 12 people. These people will be able to build and troubleshoot the propellant plant and eventually set up the Mars base Alpha power system. Elon Musk actually has said that he intends to make this base fully capable of wrapping up operations and come back to Earth, just in case something goes horribly wrong over Mars. The company also hopes to cultivate its own resources on Mars. These resources will come in handy for refueling on return journeys. The technology which SpaceX will be using will be based on similar carbon-neutral propellants which are used on Earth. In conclusion, SpaceX aims to launch its first orbital mission in 2023. The first flight will be very important because it'll decide the fate of Starship program. Although aeronautical engineers and scientists are optimistic about the success of the Starship program, there's a lot that can go wrong with the project. Here's hoping that everything goes according to plan and that humanity is soon able to establish a foothold on Mars. Do you think Starship will be a success, and when do you think it'll be able to set foot on Mars? Feel free to comment down below. Smash that like button if you enjoyed the content. Stay tuned for similar content, and thanks for watching until the end, and we'll see you in the next one.